Right.
And that's the hard part.
That is.
I do you when I can do 28 other people.
Yeah, and that's one of my big questions is going to be to ask you, about one of your books there, the loyalty versus satisfaction, and how to get through all of that stuff. But let's do this. Let's just to kind of set the stage. I don't think we'll have any lagging, but if the software lags for some reason, just don't touch it. Just sit back. It's really smart. It boots itself back up.
Okay.
Literally, I've been disconnected and it's smart enough to boot itself back up.
I understand.
Yep. We'll go for as long as you're comfortable. Usually it's about 45 minutes or so, as long as the conversation goes.
Where are you living? What city do you live in?
I live in the Delta Sky Club at the airport.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm kidding.
You live in Atlanta?
I'm kidding. Yeah, exactly. No, I'm up in Michigan. So Metro Detroit, a nice suburb of Metro Detroit.
Oh, where no one is.
No one anymore. It's getting thinner and thinner, as you might know. It's a challenge, but there's little pockets of prosperity, and as you know, you can move around. This is America. Didn't
the guy from QuickBooks buy the city though? Didn't he?
He is. I think he's in. I've heard over $5 billion that he's invested. Dan Gilbert into the city, and very honorable. But sometimes you got to scratch your head and say, I don't know. Maybe
Isn't Dan Gilbert the dick that never put a team around LeBron?
Well, that sounds almost political, but he's that guy. And when LeBron left the first time,
7 years. He had 7 years. He had LeBron fucking James
and forgot
to get another forward.
Yeah. I mean, that's what
an idiot.
Now the good news is that LeBron did come back, win a championship, not really for Gilbert, but for the city.
Right.
And now he's out making his legacy.
Yeah, I'm fine with LeBron coming back and doing it.
Yeah.
But Dan Gilbert still remains a dick.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely, it's definitely interesting, in the Lions. I'm in Detroit, and, it's really tough to even say the word football with the way that the Lions have been handled. So,
you have a great quarterback.
Yeah, well, we've had him in the past. Joey Harrington, might remember that guy.
Yep.
And Stafford, I mean, last weekend just kind of, blew himself up, and all across the town, everyone's looking for his head because he's being paid $120 million for a long contract and still can't win. We've had Matt Millen involved. We've had Mariucci be our coach. There's something that's kind of, I think, systemic to it. I'm not sure what exactly it is. I'm not the biggest football expert.
Well, I'm going to tell you what you should do. Go uptown or downtown, whatever you call it in Detroit.
Okay.
And avoid all the shit. Go to a place called John King Used Books.
John King Used Books. I will go there.
It is the best used bookstore in America.
No kidding. What a
And if you go in and you tell, there's people who work there. The girl's name. Hold on, let me get it. I think it's Barbara. But if you ask for John King, you tell them you know me, they'll let you in the rare book room.
No kidding.
It's the best rare book room I've ever been in.
Wow.
And it's in Detroit.
That is a find. So, and it's really interesting that you bring this up because my endeavor is to launch a second podcast. And the podcast is going to be called Detroit Real, Renaissance 2.0. And
That's cool.
It's going to talk about things like John King's used book and the best used book, rare book room in the country. So I appreciate the lead and also the kind of the vote of confidence. I went to London in May, actually, for a podcasting course. And are you familiar with Brian Rose and London Real? You may not be.
No, I'm not.
If you're ever
the girl is Deborah.
Deborah, got it.
Yeah, but she goes by Deb, D-E-B. Just tell her you know me.
100%.
And that you live in Detroit and you want to come over and see the rare book room.
Thank you very much.
Because if you listen, it's a whole building all by itself.
No kidding.
Like you go in the front, you can't tell anything's there. And then you go to the secret place,
Wow, the vault.
Yeah, it's way cool.
That is very cool. It's a very cool idea, too. Very cool idea. I was in London, and Brian Rose is over there. He runs a company called London Real. And if you're ever in London, you would be you would love his show. It's actually face-to-face. In fact, Roger Brooks just had you on his show. He's the guy that brought the flags.
Yeah.
He and I were in the same course together that Brian ran. So he's taught us how to podcast essentially.
Wow.
And you would be a great guest for him to have on. He has a lot of A players that are on there. If you're ever in London, I'd love to connect you guys or introduce you guys.
I'll throw something at you also. I know that your podcast is sort of new and getting off the ground. We have a network of Sell or Die is our podcast. We're at about 100,000 downloads a month, Sell or Die. And we're taking on other podcasters who are looking to build their market out.
Okay.
And we will edit your show. We will SEO your show. We will post your show. And we will connect it with our entire network so that someone might click on your show.
Oh, that'd be terrific.
We're trying to get 1 million downloads.
Awesome.
And that will be the epicenter of the network, and we're getting there. I mean, we have a lot of people that are wanting to be on it. It's not expensive. It's about I want to say it's like $1,000 a month, but we do everything.
Gotcha.
And you just send us the raw footage, and we take care of the rest.
Should I follow up with anybody in particular for that?
Say that again.
Should I follow up with anybody in particular in your office for that?
Yeah, you can send an email to doug@gitomer.com.
Got it.
And just tell him that we talked about the Sell or Die Network, and he'll get you all the stuff.
Thank you very much.
The guy in London who did the training for you,
right,
has his strategy proven correct?
Many parts of it have. He has, he posts the video up just like Roger does. And he films it live in his studio. And I think he is, I'm not sure exactly how many downloads he has, but it's in several hundreds of thousands. He's also producing movies. So he's done a movie with Dorian Yates. He did a movie with John Joseph from the Cro-Mags. He's doing movies now as well, full-length movies. He's doing courses as well, these leadership academies, or basically one's for your life accelerator, one's for podcasting. And that's how I met Roger. And so he's got a few different revenue generators that are revolving around teaching, as well as he has his own, litany of interviews that he's done with A-listers, not only from around London, but Grant Cardone's been on the show. Gary Vee's been on the show. Tim Ferriss has been on the show. A lot of those popular guys, these young bucks compared to a sage old pro like you.
Well, most of the people who are, quote, in the business, they all know me. We text each other.
100%.
Grant's come over to the house just to sort of see what I'm like.
Nice.
The curiosity, I think, was killing him. But the bottom line, the bottom line is podcasting will be the new launch for at least the next 5 or 6 years. All of a sudden, people's blogs are not as important once podcasting took over. And the main reason is that people have time to listen while they're traveling or watch while they're traveling. And it's not always possible to read while they're traveling.
Yeah, that's a huge advancement in technology. A good friend of yours, actually I think a real true fan of yours, friend of mine now, gave you just a litany of great compliments. And one of the things she said to ask you about was the time when back in the day, you literally had faxes just coming in and flooding your office.
I started a fax back thing on accident. I went to a talk from a mentor of mine, a local guy named Ty Boyd. And at the end of my column, I said, if you want Ty Boyd's 51 ways to stay closer to your customer, fax me the words Ty Boyd on your letterhead with your fax number and we'll send it back. Well, I had it done at the Business Journal. There were so many faxes that they almost didn't get their paper out on time. And I realized, like, wow, my readers are responding. They're reading all the way to the last sentence and then taking action. And so we did the fax back probably for 4 or 5 years, because that's what technology was. And then obviously email took over and PDFs took over, and now it's, it's everything's internet. But it built my business.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I was introduced to you via the Tuesday morning caffeine.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I don't know if you probably have heard this quite a bit, but that was a big deal. That was like one of the most important things of my week, was to get that little nugget of nourishment and motivation. So thank you for doing that. Did you stumble across that, or was that something that someone had told you to kind of try out?
What we did, we collected email names in days when you could collect them. Are you recording?
Yes, we're going.
Okay, good. What we did is we collected a bunch of email names, and I would just send out my weekly column. That was literally that is what nurtured it. And then one day I said to the woman, hey, let's try to sell something. Maybe people would buy it. And we got $10,000 one Tuesday morning out of the blue from people. And I go, let's sophisticate this.
There's something to this. Yeah.
And Sales Caffeine is now like pushing 1,000 issues. And it's made its mark in the world, hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and still goes out every week.
Oh yeah, I still got it. Would you say that's already been done, or could a salesperson implement that strategy, or is that kind of like asking for a fax?
I think that it's not one thing, it's a combination of things. I think that if you're looking to be able to make a niche in your market, or put at least a notch in your market, I don't want to go too French because they're a little bit in a revolt at the moment. But I would say that if you're trying to make a mark, you can't rely on one platform. There has to be a Facebook platform. There has to be a YouTube platform. There certainly has to be an Instagram platform. There has to be a Twitter platform. And now there has to be some LinkedIn for sure. And because we're going to post on LinkedIn tonight, we're going to post our best episode of Sell or Die, for the year. And people will click on it and they'll watch the hell out of it. But there also has to be a podcast, because I don't think that you can make your statements, but people are going to look for how current are you? Mm-hmm. What is your currency? Not your currency, but what's your marketplace currency, right?
Yeah.
And I want to see it. I want to see who you are. I want to see if you're full of shit or not. And my YouTube channel now has close to 6 million views.
Congratulations.
So, yeah, thanks. But it's because my stuff is good enough that one guy tells another guy. If I was bullshit, no one would say anything. So it's still a matter of content. No matter what platform you're on, no matter what you're trying to do, content will drive one person to tell another.
I have a question I'd like to get your opinion on. This content is important, and it's all directed towards sales and our call it line of work or
mm-hmm.
way of life. Why do you think salesmen are viewed so negatively in this country?
Well, it starts with a reputation. If you go to a car dealership, what do you think the America's perception of a car salesman is? Yeah. What do you think America's perception of a door-to-door salesman is? What do you think America's perception of an alarm salesman or a home improvement salesman or a Winnebago, RV salesman or a mobile home salesman, or even a real estate guy? There are too many bad salespeople. And as a result of it, you gain a perception of a mass based on a few. So there may only be, 500,000 shitty salespeople. There's 30 million salespeople, and they're bearing the burden for the ones that are calling you on the phone and wanting to know if you want to donate $20 to the Police Benevolent League, of which the police never get a nickel.
Yeah, and the guy doesn't work for the police department either. He's some
Right.
sales guy.
So you see, you don't see a movie about great salespeople. You see Glengarry, Glen Ross, you see The Salesman, you see Boiler Room, you see, you Show Me the Money, whatever it is that you see, or you see the shithead that stole everybody's stock money, who now has resurfaced to pretend like he's a good guy.
Jordan Belfort.
Yeah.
The Wolf.
Yeah, the Wolf of Wall Street. But that kind of thing it's exacerbated the negative connotation of salespeople. Yeah, so much so, Glengarry Glen Ross is like one of my favorite movies of all time.
Mine as well.
Alec Baldwin, where he plays himself. Yeah. Hey, see this watch? No. My favorite line is, put down that coffee.
Coffee is for closers. Yes, sir.
And so when we made our sales caffeine mug, which we had to do, we put on the other side of it, coffee's for closers. And we have expanded his brand for whatever, one reason or another. That is, it's part of the fun of being in sales. I do sales because I love sales. And if anybody, and I don't care what it is, but I have to love what I'm selling. Yes, I love to sell, but if I don't love what I'm selling, something's drastically wrong. Maybe it's a pain in the ass. Maybe people will reject me, but I love it and they know I love it. And my love is as transferable as any other part of my message.
It comes through too. And you're very passionate, and I try to emulate that. A lot of times in the investment business in particular, we have some products that maybe come up short from the expectations that we had originally.
Mm-hmm.
And just like that salesman that left a bad image for all salespeople, sometimes one little product misstep can really hurt the reputation for all of the products for that company.
You're better off getting rid of the product.
No kidding. So
the only reason they have it is for their own fucking greed.
Nice. Yes. So
in
I agree.
A nice, positive kind of way.
Yeah, touchy-feely kind of way. Because I'm from Detroit, we're touchy-feely up here. But the idea though,
usually with a pointed gun.
Yeah, or a sharp instrument. They're trying to crack down on the gun laws. But
yeah, I think Detroit is known for asking for people's wallets without their permission.
Oh no! Knock on wood. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is, those companies. I do think that they are machines, and sometimes they don't have the heart or the soul. One of your greatest phrases is, what would you rather have, loyalty or satisfaction?
Yep.
And I want to ask you, is loyalty possible without at least having satisfaction?
Loyalty is totally possible without having satisfaction. Every company in this world, I don't care what they sell, whether it's widgets or toilets or sod or refrigerators, they have customers that call up and pissing and moaning about everything and then buy another one.
It's true.
There are people who are never satisfied, but they're loyal. And when you measure satisfaction, you're measuring the wrong circumstance. There are many more loyal customers that are bitchy-moany than there are customers that will put themselves down in the satisfaction column. And just look at it this way. J.D. Power, the customer satisfaction, they give awards out. They give them to airlines. What could the category possibly be that these people have won? Least shitty.
Yes.
Right?
Best cuisine. No.
Right. So I think that you have to look at it from a standpoint of, who are you trying to fool?
Interesting.
If you get Flyer Talk, you'll see that Doug Parker, the infamous CEO of American Airlines, just wrote a column on, customers would rather see the plane take off on time than have customer service. Doug.
Expectations.
Like, Doug, taking the plane off on time would be a given. Customer service would be a given. And what he's trying to do is say, our people now have permission to be shitty. That's all they're trying to, they're there for your safety. No, they're there for loyalty of people. Now, I have what's known as forced loyalty.
Okay.
I'm in Charlotte. You fly Delta, you're in Atlanta, or you're in Cleveland, or you're in Detroit. I fly, and they have a nice airport. It's all nice fountains and shit going off, and I can get a hot dog that I don't really like. What do you call those things? Conies. And I fly American because I'm in Charlotte. They're 96% of the flights. Mm-hmm. But if Castro Airlines came in from Cuba and offered the same amount of flights as American, I'd fly Castro.
Yeah, right.
I have no place else. I had to fly this year 10,000 miles at the end of the year so I could become executive platinum. So my fiance and I flew to Fiji. Could have been worse. It's a great place. And we got our status, and now I have status through the first part of 2020. Well, it's worth it for me because I get that little extra wider seat in first class. I don't care about the food. I actually bring food, and I hope the flight attendant asks me for it. I try to feed them.
Outstanding.
It's funny as hell.
I bet.
Yeah.
So what are a couple of things? Now, you mentioned forced loyalty. How can a sales guy that's representing an investment product try to get some, call it forced loyalty, or try to get some loyalty even though the product might not be satisfying?
I will tell you this. Anybody who sells or resells your product doesn't care about your product. They care about making money for their family, for their mortgage, for their vacation, for their car payment. And if you, as a reseller, can sit with that insurance person and say, these are 5 strategies you need to put into your business, my product notwithstanding, here's a way to build customer loyalty. Here's a way to build employee loyalty. Because when you lose a salesperson in one of those places, you don't just lose the salesperson. You lose the training money you put into them, what you're going to have to do to retrain and ramp somebody else up, and you lose their book of business. I mean, it's gas. So if you walk into an agency and you say, listen, I'm here for representing my product and I want you to take it, but understand I'm not a guy who's going to say, here's the good parts, here's the good parts, here's the good parts. I'm going to help you build your business. I'm going to help you as a person to gain more revenue, which is really what you want. My products or any other product, they don't want to sell your products. They want to sell stuff. Your products just happen to be part of their stuff.
Yeah, it's very cool. You remind me about selling stuff. And one of the things that you did very successfully, at least it looked very successfully from my vantage point, was you came out with this book called The Little Red Book of Selling, which was, I have 2 copies of it. Yeah. I have one that I've carried with me in the bag because it's perfect size. And I looked at it, and there's all these get bits that are in there. One of my favorite ones is that I'm going to paraphrase it, but it basically says there's a sales guy there, and he's saying, my company won't give me this, or my company won't give me that. Right. And then there's like some person standing there, I think it's a gal, and she's saying, well, then go get whatever you need.
Right. You have your own money now. Yeah. You can go invest in yourself. Like, dude.
Yeah, well, you would not believe how popular that is. You probably know, but a lot of folks they complain, that company won't do this, my company won't pay for that, and it allows them to to come up short. Well, what you did though is with that first book is you kind of ignited a fire, and next thing you know, you're coming out with the little yellow book of yes, one of my favorites, the little black book of connections. Just volumes and volumes and volumes of, I would call them almost bite-sized, because they are not thick novels.
Correct.
Bite-sized little bits of value in different, call it niche or genres of the sales game. How did you come across that, or was that a planned strategy? There
was no planned strategy. Ray Bard, my publisher from Bard Press, met me in a Mexican restaurant in Austin, Texas, about 16 years ago, and said, Harvey Pinnock wrote the Little Red Book of Golf and sold 1.5 million copies. And I'll bet that you could write the Little Red Book of Selling and sell more. And right. So on a napkin, literally on a napkin, I started to pencil out Kick Your Own Ass as the first chapter. There had to be something about asking questions. There had to be something about networking. There had to be something about, and then I wrote 12.5. The last chapter would be resign your position as general manager of the universe. So on that, and I still have the napkin, but on that napkin, I literally wrote out what would become the best-selling sales book of all time. And it'll stay that way. People buy it and they give it to their new salespeople. Here, read this book. There's other stories in the book about the little salesman that could, and the principles of lifelong learning. But the things that are in there about value, they're timeless.
They are.
And I'm not worried about, is this book going to go out of date? The word email doesn't appear in there because those are mediums. These are core values that you as a person have to have in order to be able to win as a person. On January the 1st, the Sales Manifesto comes out. Awesome. It is, or it will be, I'm tired of getting emails to my inbox telling me how to have my best year ever. Like, dude, I don't know how explicit your podcast is, but shut the fuck up. I don't want to have my best year ever. So I'm telling, in the Sales Manifesto, it's how to have your best decade ever. I'm telling you what's now, I'm telling you what's new, and I'm telling you what's next in order to be able to build your foundation to have year after year be better. And right now, I'm sure you're aware, we're in the best economy probably in the history of this country. Some people will tell you otherwise, but I'm telling you, next year my business will double. And it will double because we're going to take advantage of the upturn in the economy to reach new people. Some people's business is going to go up 10 or 15%, and they may erroneously think they had something to do with it.
That's natural.
Like, dude, you had nothing to do with it. The economy's on fire. All of a sudden, real estate people who are selling houses, they think they had something to do with it. And people have more money to invest, so a stockbroker might think, man, I'm on fire now. No, dude, you're not on fire. Your customers have more money.
You know, it's interesting. I mentioned it to a lot of people that I talk with. There are a lot of financial advisors that are out there, Jeffrey, that have never seen a bear market yet.
Wow.
That's going to be shocking once they feel the cold water, which it might not happen for a couple of years. But can you imagine that? How can you get advice from someone about your money and they've never been in a bear market?
Crazy. I'm friends with my financial advisor, and whatever he says, I say, okay. Because when I first met him on an airplane flying back to Charlotte, he said, have you ever spoken on at the $1 Million Round Table? I said, no. He said, well, I'm on the selection committee. You want to go? I'm like, hell yeah, I want to go. And it was more than 2 years after that he actually sat down with me and talked to me about becoming one of his clients. And I've been one ever since, and I'm never leaving. And I've given him 100 referrals.
Yeah, that's not satisfying.
He's never asked for one, by the way. And his daughter works for me now.
You know, since you took that turn, I'll go there. A lot of wholesalers have kids, and we are on the road a lot, sometimes 2, 3, 4 nights a week, consistently. Yep. It can be very difficult to be a good parent in that regard. Somehow, some way, your kids work for you.
Right.
And I admire that more than I could probably put into words. How is that? Is that some more of that forced loyalty?
No, it's you're either, like, I'm a father, that's my first job. I'm a grandfather, that's my second job. I'm a friend, that's my third job. And those are the 3 jobs that I hold dearest. So my daughters are working for me because they want to. And I have a 9-year-old daughter also, and all my granddaughters are older than my youngest daughter. And so I know it shouldn't be, but it is.
It almost sounds like you're bragging there a little bit. But continue, please continue.
I'll just say this, that you earn that. It costs you a lot of sticky situations.
I'll tell you, I was there. I got to tell you, I saw you speak in Dearborn, Michigan, and I believe that was the gal that had your youngest daughter.
Right.
And so I've been there. I've been back in the day with you, and the gal Sara, I forget her last name, but Sara was with you working, and was just a terrific, support staff.
We have great people.
It's family. Come and go. You have family.
People come and go. We hire eagles.
Yep.
And sometimes eagles fly. But the circumstance is this: my youngest daughter will be accompanying me at the end of this month, at the end of December, and we're going to sell books in the back of the room together. Excellent. And she's already asked me about, are we going to take a credit card? Are we going to use that swipe thing? What are we? So she's already on. Now, this is a 9-year-old kid who has her own podcast and her own iPhone and her own Google Chromebook. And I mean, she's on fire. She has an Instagram account. She's rip-roaring ready to roll because I want to make sure she's ready for the world.
Yeah, that's very cool. That is very cool. The kids nowadays, they don't seem to stay in the same job. In fact, in my business, there is a lot of turnover. In fact, I've experienced it where companies have shut down the product and they had to get rid of the sales force, and you have to move on to the next one.
No different than the drug business.
Is that the sign of the times, or is that just because of the companies?
It's an evolutionary thing, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. More and more. Like if you go into the new McDonald's, there's no people to wait on you. There's only people to give you your hamburger. You order on a computer. And the minimum wage thing that people, you got to have $15. No, you don't. Dude, if you're $10 an hour, the likelihood of you being replaced by a robot is 100%. Not 92%, 100%. So go get an education. No matter where, learn it yourself, learn it in school. Go to college if you want to be indoctrinated the wrong way, but still go. And, have yourself an ability to earn yourself a living rather than go to work at some place where you're literally wageless. You exist on a poverty level.
I don't know how they do it.
I don't know either.
I read somewhere recently that the self-checkout lane is actually detrimental. I don't know what your feelings are on that, but they're taking jobs from people that might not have the skills or ability. But so I'm trying to use the checkout lane now to keep my community kind of a community instead of being more like a vending machine.
That's one way of looking at it. There's another way. My daughter will not let me go in the checkout lane. We're using self-checkout, Dad. Okay, bud. It's rock and roll.
That's simple.
They don't understand anything other than can you imagine, and I don't want to date ourselves too much, but in 5 years, your kid's going to say, hey, come here, you guys, you got to see this. My dad's still using a keyboard.
Say it isn't so. Say it isn't so.
But that's evolution. And you either live with it or die with it. One of those two things. And that's why we call our podcast Sell or Die.
Yeah, I love it. And I listen to a lot of the episodes that are on there. What about the guy that says, well, compliance? Like, I can't have that kind of a show because of compliance and there's too many regulations. Is that just an excuse?
I will tell you this. There are rules about your industry, but there are no rules that say you can't be a human being. And so as long as you don't talk about what it is that you do for them, you're okay. It's who you are as a person. Like you can talk about, if you sell life insurance, you don't have to talk about New York Life, but you can talk about how to live longer. Mm-hmm. Or quality of life, or having the best life ever, or where to go within 25 miles of your house to play the best round of golf or see the best movies. There's no law against being a human. there are laws against ballyhooing what it is that you're doing. You can't talk about your company. You can't, offer anything for free if you're selling stocks. You can't take a doctor out to dinner if you're selling drugs. I mean, there are compliance rules that everybody has now, especially in the financial world, the banking world, and the medical world. The HIPAA laws, you could go to jail for anything. But nothing is in there that prevents you from helping people have better lives. And don't talk about your company. Don't even say who you represent. Let people Google you and find out. They'll go to your LinkedIn page if they want to know what you do.
Wholesalers and financial advisors listening, you're welcome. That right there was a golden bomb dropped on your lap by Mr. Gitomer. Appreciate
exactly. it. And I've talked about it to your industry for years. It seems logical. It seems common sense, but people are afraid. They don't want to take that chance. Oh my gosh, what's going to happen if they find out? Am I going to, just look at the present political situation right now in our country. We're divided, horribly divided. And people are afraid to speak their mind for who the other people might be against them. I mean, it's a free world, dude. Speak up.
It's actually un-American to feel like that.
I feel like we're in a dilemma of really what to do, but I'm hoping that prosperity will lead us out of it. Like we become so prosperous that all of a sudden it won't matter anymore. And as unemployment goes down and the stock market goes up and tax rates go down, people will have, I think, a different opinion in a few years about how much money they have in their pocket and how grateful they are for it. At least I know I will be.
Yeah, you've always, you just did it again. You demonstrate courage. You, quote unquote, take a risk that's out there. One of the things that I noticed about you initially, and the first time that I went and saw you live was actually in Cincinnati, Ohio. Remember that? You've done them 100 times, but at the Cincinnatian Hotel, you had 1,200, deep breathers in the room there. It was an awesome show, by the way. And but one of the things that stuck out is, wait a minute, I'm going to see, this icon, this guru, this master of sales, and the dude looks like he's going to be fixing the furnace.
Right, exactly. But listen, I have a work shirt that I wear because I'm a worker. I'm willing to roll up my sleeves and do whatever it takes to be able to make it happen for myself and my family. And I want people to get the same message. I could wear the nicest suit and the nicest handmade in Paris, whatever I wanted, but I choose to be a worker. I wear jeans, but there's a secret to what I wear. Look at my belt and look at my shoes. Both of those things are worth a bloody fortune. But I do that for myself. I'm not doing this for other people. I'm comfortable. Neckties strangle clear thinking, in my opinion. And so I try to put myself in a position where I'm comfortable with who I am as a person. I want to make sure that whatever I'm delivering it authentically. And if you go back, 75 years and read Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People or How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, he says, be yourself. That's the underlying theme in both of those books. Be yourself. Okay, so I will. But many people go into a sales call and they're not themselves. Mm-hmm. They go in with a bunch of bullshit. And
that's the risk that you took, because I'm sure that your peers at the National Speakers Association, they said you're going to fail. You can't go in looking like that. And
no, they say you can't swear. And I said, really? That's a fucking surprise. Now, I don't drop the F-bomb.
Right? Yeah, I know.
I don't drop the F-bomb on stage at a corporate event.
Right. I
might say bullshit a couple times, but everyone will know I'm capable of it because I speak street. Mm-hmm. I'm not, up in the cloud someplace. And believe me, I have a great vocabulary. I'm very well read, but I don't need to brag about that to other people. They don't care about me. They care about them. They care about how am I going to help them win more the minute they leave. That's what they want. Information they can turn into money.
So so not only was it that you were comfortable in it, but wasn't it as a marketing scheme so you would not
Oh,
look
sure.
like everybody else?
Yeah. I want those people to be my customer.
Mm-hmm.
And if they feel they can relate to me, they will buy from me.
Yeah, and it's worked well. The the question I was going to open up with, we kind of glossed right into the good stuff here. I was going to ask you, if you recall the moment, and this is kind of important not only to me but to a lot of our listeners that are on here. Do you recall the moment when you realized that you were gonna be bald? You were gonna lose that luscious head of hair you had,
Mm-hmm.
and how'd that affect your sales game?
I will tell you that at first I kind of panicked because I felt like I would lose my virility or my looks or whatever it is that it was. And so I did all kinds of things, and I looked at all kinds of solutions, and even at one point hair transplants. Thank God I didn't do that. And then one day I realized it doesn't matter anymore. And when you realize it doesn't matter, like I've cut my own hair for the last, I can't tell you how long, 15, 20 years. But I use electric razor, I use a number one, and I do myself. I've saved thousands of dollars doing it myself. I don't use a razor because I'm scared of them. They make you bleed or something.
It does take cut myself shaving to a whole new level. But I do tell our beautiful bald brothers, I tell them this, Jeffrey, I tell them that being bald is great. Going bald sucks.
Yeah, exactly. That's interesting. You're right. It takes a while to come to the grip of, okay, I'm losing it. But once you realize it doesn't matter to others, then it stops mattering to you.
Amen. Amen. You had just a plethora of great successes over your career. I imagine that you're human, and maybe you've had some big toe stubbing events, some big disasters. Is there one in particular, or maybe a couple that you could share with us and what you learned from those, call them opportunities?
I will tell you that the disasters that I've had on the platform have been audiovisual ones. Computer doesn't work, screen goes blank, lights go out, too much noise. I don't let anything bother me. I refuse to acknowledge crap to the audience to distract them from my message. I'm there to deliver, and they're there because they want to be there, or I'm at a corporate event where they have to be there. And if there's something going on, I either make light of it or I ignore it. I've never been in a situation where I've been unprepared. The one thing that I do is I get ready. I'll share with you, I have a morning routine that I've been doing for 25 years that I define in the Sales Manifesto, because it was time to define it. I wake up in the morning and I do 5 things. I read, I write, I prepare, and that allows me to do 2 other things, think and create. So read, write, prepare, think, create. I've done that for my hour of the day for 25 years. And all I've done is bank it. I got 15 books. I've given 2,500 talks. And I got kids. Everybody has kids. So you get up an hour earlier. Or you go to school like I do, and then you hang out for an hour with yourself. But I'm the most important person in my life. Totally. And I get that, and I'm going to be the best person I can be for myself first, and then I can be the best person I can be for somebody else second. It's selfish, but it works.
Your kids and your family deserve that, I think.
Yeah, totally.
They deserve you to be.
They deserve the best me.
That's right.
And I'll tell you, there have been times when they did not have the best me. I had to learn those lessons myself. No one comes up and gives you the Vulcan mind meld and says, "Don't fuck that up." But you do, in spite of what your mother said, or in spite of what your father said, or in spite of what your friend said, or your spouse said, you still go through it and screw it up yourself.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do is I train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And
Really?
it is the best therapy. You should look into it. In fact, what I offer to a lot of folks is I'll come to town and go with you. Now, I'm still a novice. I'm not an expert by any means, but I'll go with you to a local school. And it is the best time spent, not only for the defense, self-defense ramifications of it, but it's some real deep therapy.
Do you get to go to a churrascaria when you're done?
I don't, no comment, but usually I'm just taking some Advil and trying to get a good night's sleep. But
gotcha. Well, I will tell you also, and I think this is, I'm not bragging about this or anything, and I'm certainly not, I don't fall into the AA category. I go to sleep sober. And that way I wake up sober. And I wake up and I'm clear and I'm ready to work. I'm not, quote, hung over or, oh man, last night, oh my God, I need aspirin, I need coffee. I don't need anything when I wake up. I'm me. And I got this to prove it.
Yeah.
Other people are going to write a book that haven't written the first chapter yet.
Yeah. And you really hit a chord with me, because you're the guy that gave me the input that you don't drink when you're out and about. And the reason why you don't drink is because you want to be able to pick up on all those things that are happening, all those little subtle nuances. Yep. And as soon as you take a drink of alcohol, it's impossible to do. You're glossy. And
I'm going to have a couple beers. No, I don't have a couple beers. I drink 4 beers a year. And I'm only at 3 right now, so I still have December to go to find my 4th one. But I had one in Paris, I had one in Belgium, I had one in New York City. So I try to have them in places where it's memorable.
Nice.
And I drink good beer. I'm not a craft beer person. Well, it tastes just like St. Pauli's Girl. Great. I'll have a St. Pauli's Girl, please. Yeah. It tastes just like a Blue Moon. I'll have a Blue Moon then. It's like you go to the Verizon store and somebody says it's just like an iPad. All right, I'll take an iPad.
Love it, love it. A lot of our brothers in the wholesaling business, they do this entertaining, and it's a challenge. And I'll offer this question to you: what do you say? Like, if I'm there and I'm going to be non-alcoholic because I want to be sharp and I want to be, then it's a little bit of a weird thing. Like I'm not fitting in with the group that's drinking. And how do you address that?
All that is personal. No one will say jack shit if you just don't make a deal out of it. I drink seltzer with lemon and lime. It makes me look like I'm doing something. Unless I'm in Paris and then I drink wine. I have to. I'm in France. What the hell?
Yeah.
So, and I'll only have a glass, so it's not really going to affect me a whole lot. But the bottom line of it is that I feel affected because I drink so little that the least little bit will set me off. And I grew up in the 60s, Bill Clinton said, I never inhaled. I never exhaled. And I put myself into that category because I'm human.
Yeah.
Everyone's human. The question is, how do you discipline yourself? And not just discipline of not drinking, but discipline of not watching stupid things. Mm-hmm. Like people watch dumbass things on television and wonder why they're mediocre. Mm-hmm. So if your guys are looking, you go to a hotel room at night and you got 2 hours. While you're turning on the television set and watching some dumbass show, ask yourself this one question. Will what I'm watching double my income? And if it won't, you might want to click on something else and go on LinkedIn or go on Twitter, or you can broadcast on Facebook Live from your hotel room. Dude, just hit the record button. Just hit the go live button. It's so easy to do.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, YouTube, there's a lot of instructional videos and there's
totally
tons of things to watch on there. I think it was Jacko. Jacko's got some popularity now. He's the Navy SEAL guy that's hit the mainstream pretty well.
Yeah.
He basically said that something to the effect of that he doesn't like to drink when he goes out anymore. Maybe it wasn't Jacko, but it was somewhere I picked it up. And they said they didn't drink because they wanted to be reliable. And if I'm drunk out at the bar somewhere, I'm not going to be reliable. And that's really helped me to kind of stay away from alcohol, especially, if I'm at home or if I'm in the local area, because if my wife or kids need me, I want to make sure that I'm reliable. And if we're out somewhere, I'm going to really be thinking about that that I want to be reliable, and you can't do it if you're inebriated.
I was lucky in the early days of my life. I didn't like how alcohol tasted.
Ah, that's a benefit.
and so I never succumbed to the high school ecology things. I was interested in being social, but not interested in being drunk.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. Hey, I want to ask you another question. So you've been, like, when you first started out, you were building your business, and then you've hit a few different level changes.
Mm-hmm.
You came out with the e-zine, you came out with the book, you started doing this. So you've had some revenue growth, let's say that.
Right.
Any
accelerators. I've had accelerators.
Accelerators. Okay. So there are guys that get into my business that become spokesmen or spokeswomen, and they have an immediate influx of life-changing revenue, income stream.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them can't handle it. They either make poor decisions with their money, or they become reckless and they self-sabotage so that they're out on the street again somewhere. Any words of wisdom on how someone can handle that, call it new fortune, with respect to your experience and wisdom?
Well, nothing lasts. Look at the lifespan of an athlete. They come in, they're the greatest, they're the rookie of the year, then they win the MVP, and then they turn 30, and then they turn 32. And by the time they're 34, they're like somebody else 21 is better than they were. The kid Zion Williamson from Duke, he's the new LeBron. And no one's, people are going to look at this guy. And by the time he gets to college, by the time he gets to the pros, assuming he lasts one more year in college, LeBron will be 34 years old. So it's time, and you have to recognize you have a window. And what do you do with that window? And the answer is you don't piss it away. Because you can look at the people that have pissed it away, and it's kind of sad. Anybody who's big that lost it serves as an example for anybody who's little and has some and loses it. Just don't let it get away. It's so stupid to let it get away. And it's all self-indulgent. You think you're the king of the world. You think you're Mr. Big Shit, and you can go do this and you can go do that because you have temporary money. People, my dad set me straight. He said, son, people who have money think they have knowledge and power, when in fact, all they have is the ability to buy good seats. Because the money and the power and the knowledge eventually go away. Or if they stay there, it's because you did the right thing. But so many people lose it because they're so braggy about it and so stupid about it.
Yeah, and I call it self-sabotaging behavior. I think that they don't believe they deserve it, so they find a reason or a way to get rid of it. Now, what you've done, though, is you've you've reset and you've recalibrated and recalibrated.
Right.
You mentioned that the manifesto is coming out, so you're continuing to go. Your podcast, I mentioned, I didn't tell you her name, but I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. But I mentioned Michelle's thought, about your faxes coming in, how that was very cool. Mm-hmm. She also mentioned that one of the most impressive things about you is that you don't just learn something, you master it. Mm-hmm. You dig in with all 10 toes and feet and toenails, fingers and toenails, and you dig into it so that you're successful. And with that, I want to know kind of like, what is your plan for the next 20 years?
Well, my partner, Jennifer, who's my life mate, we've been together for about 5 years now. She'll be the next Jeffrey.
She'll be the next Jeffrey? Is that possible?
Well, she's pretty damn good. And she'll have all my material. So she'll be able to go out there and use it like a champion once she masters it. But I think that for me, I'm going to write as much as I can. I'm going to video as much as I can. I'm going to studio as much as I can. I'm going to podcast as much as I can, because that's legacy. So I'm focused on legacy in a way that I've never been focused on it before, because I realize that I can help a lot of people whether I'm alive or dead. I look at the Napoleon Hills and the Dale Carnegies of the world. They're still influencing people.
That's right.
And so I'm hopeful that I'll be able to have that same kind of legacy where I'm constantly influencing the next generation of whomevers.
Well, I congratulate you because you've already reinvented yourself a couple of times.
Yep.
And I was just reading, actually watching a fellow talk about stem cell research and using stem cell replacements.
Mm-hmm.
So the good news is that you probably could live another 150 years.
If they were just invented fast enough. I want to be the Spock of my generation.
Yeah, I can. I'm encouraged by that. Dan Sullivan, you know him from Strategic Coach.
Sure.
He talks about his life expectations are well past what is reasonable, and he's even given me some encouragement to put my life as 150 years long.
Mm-hmm.
Plan for that, and it's interesting what the brain can do. But now with this technology, hopefully we can live even longer. There comes a point in time where maybe a salesperson, maybe just a human, they can kind of become, burned out, or their current activity, whether it's, occupation or salesman or business owner, it becomes less fun than it used to be. What do you say to them? Is there a graceful way to shift tracks or shift gears, or what do you think about that? Should they just...
I look at it this way. People who say I'm burned out probably don't love what they do enough to stay unburnt.
Ah.
But what they really need to do, and I think they need to do this more than anything, is take a week off and think about what it is that you're doing and where it is that you're growing, and ask yourself if you're in the right space. Is it time now at Burnout to make the next decision to go to the next place? Now, some things you can plan for, some things you cannot. I never planned to be a writer. I never planned to be a speaker at all. They just showed up, and it was the right thing to do, and I did it. It was, an evolution of what I was doing, and it was a natural one. And luckily, I got my brains because my parents were smart. I inherited the brains, and I decided to do something with them. I don't take any credit for my intelligence. I pass all that on to genetics or whatever else the circumstances were. But I did take advantage of what I had. And I did it in a way where I made myself proud of what I was doing, my kids proud of what I was doing, and my family proud of what I was doing. And I think that's the real measure. What are they going to say about you when you're dead? He was a real, and whatever it is, that's what you're doing right now.
It's kind of a way to look into the future and look back.
Totally.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I can tell you, I very much appreciate you being on here. I have a couple of signature questions that I'd like to ask you before we wrap up. First one is pretty simple, straightforward. If you could pick up the telephone and on the other end of the line is a 30-year-old Jeffrey Gitomer, what advice would you give to your 30-year-old self?
Have better self-discipline. Because at 30, you're still wild. At 30, you're still undisciplined. At 30, you're still looking for the shiny object, the moth. You're still looking for the light bulb. That's the only thing that I would do. I would gain better skills faster because I was already a pretty great salesperson. I just didn't understand that the world went beyond the sale. Wow. And now I look at it and I go, wow, I'm really glad I had the experience, but I'm way beyond that now.
Interesting. Thank you for that. Second question. If you could choose any superpower at all, Jeffrey, what superpower would you choose to have, and what would you do with it?
I would probably look at the powers of Superman, and the reason is that he was relatively invincible with the exception of kryptonite. Kryptonite for a lot of people is either alcohol or money. But I would want to be able to leap tall buildings in a single bound rather than having to wait for the elevator and and or stand on line. And I would like to be able to protect people who need protection, because
Well, that's very thoughtful.
we live in a very volatile world right now where people are literally afraid to go out at night, afraid to drive in their car, afraid for what's going to happen, whether it's a bomb or a gun, and the world looks at it in fear rather than in as news of the day. So I think I'd rather have that power than anything. I don't care about the X-ray vision, but I do care about the able to fly.
Well, that's very cool. I can tell you that I'm not alone in being a member of the community that you've helped over the decades. And in fact, I'd like to just take a moment now and just kind of say thanks. I mentioned several times over the podcast here that you've been inspirational and very helpful in my own development, my career. I would say my financial success. Before I was introduced to you, I really wasn't into this lifetime learning concept. And now it's a joke. Like my wife, she makes fun of me that I have more books than I have clothes. And, there's a reason for that. They don't even have to get it. They can just enjoy their house and their
Exactly.
life. Yeah. But I want to thank you for that. And thank you really on behalf of the, I'd say many years of leadership, mentorship, coaching, consulting that you've given to me and to thousands of others, literally probably millions actually. And I'm sure that, we all appreciate you very much. And I can speak for all of us when I say thank you. And when I say long live the king.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, you are definitely the king of sales. And with that, we can wrap up. Any final thoughts? Wholesalers, financial advisors, you know where to find Jeffrey Gitomer. He's everywhere.
I'm on Gitomer.com, or listen to the podcast Sell or Die.
Any bookstores, they have a complete Gitomer's success section in their book section. We'll watch out for that for the Sales Manifesto. That's coming out next year. And appreciate you for taking the time to write that. I look forward to getting my copy and devouring it like I've done your other.
Actually, it'll be in the mail.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Make sure we have your mailing address. I know we have your email address, but get with Stacy or whoever we booked you with, and make sure I have your copy. My email address is my name, Jeffrey@Gitomer.com.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Send me your address. It'll come back. Boom, boom.
Oh, I can't wait for that. We'll do that. And I'll see you on the road as well. I always try to catch you at the live shows when I can.
Cool. You will.
And with that, we'll wrap up. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Awesome Wholesaler Experience Podcast. Today's esteemed guest was none other than the king of sales, Mr. Jeffrey Gitomer. Thanks, Jeffrey, for being on.
It's my doggone pleasure.
If you guys like this episode, feel free to share it with your friends and loved ones. You can
tell both your friends. Wait, tell both your friends.
Tell both of your friends. That's exactly right. And thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting the show, everyone. And most of all, of course, thanks for being awesome.